Hi everybody, it's Leela from Miss Kiss Creations. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you a very simple yet beautiful tumbler. I like to do these tumblers whenever I'm in a hurry or if I need a quick gift or something, or if somebody special orders them. So you only need one type of glitter. It's called Mother of Dragons and it's kind of a color shifting, iridescent type of glitter. And I really like this on a black background. It really makes it pop. Again, this tumbler is very simple, but it creates such a beautiful tumbler and everybody just loves it. I first sanded this tumbler down with a 180 grit sanding block. After I sanded it down, I sprayed it down with 91 or 99% alcohol. Once that dried immediately, I spray painted it with a flat or matte black spray paint. I will be applying my glitter using the epoxy method. I have already mixed my epoxy off screen and I just want a very small amount of epoxy on my tumbler. How I like to think about this is having the epoxy act as an adhesive. So I'm working with a 20 ounce modern curve stainless steel tumbler from Makerflow Crafts. And all I did was I stuck my finger in my pre-mixed epoxy and I'm just rubbing it around the tumbler and I'm making sure I have an even coat of epoxy. So the amount of epoxy that I will be using is probably going to be about 2 milliliters, maybe 3 milliliters of epoxy. So that's about 1.5 part A and 1.5 part B. So I just want to make sure I'm covering this entire tumbler, and it's really easy to know when you have the black tumbler covered because it's so matte. So whenever you put that epoxy on it, you can really see it shine. So I'm going to finish this up and then I'll return with the next step. My tumbler is now epoxied. I am now going to go in with my Mother of Dragons, and what I do is I transfer it over to a Dixie cup. It just allows me to have more control over the tumbler, and I'm going to start at the bottom. If you notice, I added my catch paper underneath my tumbler, and I want to put a heavy coat of the glitter on the bottom of the tumbler. So I'm holding my Dixie cup close to the bottom of the tumbler. So this all depends on how far you want to go up. So what I like to do is I like to then pinch my my glitter like salt, and I take it out of the cup and then I just add it to the tumbler slowly. Now this will take some time to get used to because this is kind of it's kind of practice makes perfect, but this just makes a kind of thicker but not as thick as the bottom. And as I'm going up the cup, I'm going to raise my hand higher and higher. So I'm moving more further away, so up from the tumbler as I'm going up, because I want to do kind of a fade or that ombre effect. So I know a lot of people, they start higher and then they go lower. So if you find that easier, then you can do that as well. So now that I'm getting higher, I'm now going to raise my hand higher away from the tumbler, kind of do that cascading or ombre effect. And I'm just going right up that tumbler. And you can see with the black behind it, this really makes a very gorgeous tumbler. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this is such an easy, quick tumbler to do for any last minute tumblers or any gifts or just cute ideas to make if somebody really doesn't know what they want. And these colors are color shifting, and it shifts between purple, yellow, and kind of like lime green. So I don't know if you're wondering now, but I did add epoxy all on this tumbler. I did that for a reason, because after I do this step, I'm going to go right into placing my decal on my tumbler whenever my epoxy's dried. So I wanted to make sure I had a good covered tumbler up top with that epoxy, so whenever I place that decal, it's not just on that spray paint. So you can put your tumbler, your glitter, as high as you like it. And then now I'm just going in, I'm just kind of tweaking little steps of where I would like to place my glitter. Now that my glitter is placed on my tumbler, I'm now going to take my turner off the turner, my pipe, and then I'm going to pat it off, and then I'm going to do the bottom of the tumbler. And it's easy as that. Now, since I'm working with chunky glitter, I know a lot of people like to use wax paper now. So what they will do is they will get wax paper and just kind of cover it and smush it down, that's okay if that's what you want to do. I just like to take a glove and I just go around and I pat my tumbler while it's still wet with a nice clean glove. So I let it spin on the cup turner and I go around and I just pat it down like so. Whichever way is easier, but make sure however way or whichever way you like to do this step, you are not missing this step, because this is very important whenever you're using chunky glitter, because if you don't do this, then you're going to be sanding a lot, because this glitter is going to stay in place and it's going to lift up. It's going to dry exactly where it is, which is going to be lifted, and you're going to have a very bumpy tumbler. And the only way to avoid that is simply just pressing down around the tumbler like you're seeing now. So I'm going to do this. Once I'm finished blotting or pressing down my chunky glitter, I'm going to clean up this mess, and then I'm going to let it spin on the cup turner for about 5 to 6 hours. After about 5 to 6 hours, I'm then going to let my tumbler air dry or air cure for another 18 hours or so. So the total drying or air curing time is going to be 24 hours. The reason why I wait 24 hours before I apply my decal is because I've applied my decal before around 15 to 16 hours of it being dry. I ended up not liking the decal, so whenever I peeled it back up, my epoxy actually was not fully dried underneath my tumbler, and I actually ripped up the epoxy with the decal. So I just like to avoid that at all costs. So I'm going to let this dry completely for 24 hours before I place my decal on my tumbler. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'll see y'all in about 24 hours. Welcome back, everybody. My tumbler is now cured, so the epoxy is dry. You can see here that the glitter is in place on the tumbler, and right now the glitter is still exposed, so we haven't epoxied over the glitter. So before we epoxy over the glitter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sanding block. You need a 220 grit sanding block for this. And I'm just going to go around the top of the tumbler and just sand it very lightly. And you're going to see some little scratches on the tumbler. That's all right. You don't want to do this very hard because you don't want to sand away that epoxy or sand through the epoxy. The reason why I'm sanding is because I actually got a little bit of bubbles up top, so I just want to make it as smooth as I can. And then once you're finished sanding, you're going to take your 91% alcohol and just spray it around the tumbler and then wipe it off with a paper towel. And I always like to do that after every time I sand or before I place a decal on my tumbler. It just helps the epoxy stick and take any oils off of your tumbler that you may have put on with your hands. Like I said earlier, my glitter is exposed, meaning there's no epoxy over my glitter, so I did use chunky glitter. So if you want, you can either turn off your cup turner or just go around your tumbler while your cup turner is on and just kind of wipe off any glitter that might be sticking up. So what I do is I just peel it right off, any glitter that might be sticking up. And sometimes it's easier to take your cup off the turner and just look at it eye level to see if there's any just little glitter that's just going to be an annoyance whenever you epoxy, because you don't want to sand this too much. You want to do little to no sanding on this tumbler. So this is where the sanding is going to get you if you didn't lay your glitter down as flat as you would like. So I'm going to go around this, make sure you're going around the bottom, and then after we'll move on with the next step. For my next step of this tumbler, I am now going to apply my decal on the top of my cup before I place my epoxy. So what I'm doing now is I'm just letting my tumbler rotate, and I'm just trying to find a good spot on where I want to place my decal. So I like the spot where it is right now. I just made a quick decal, Boss Lady. I have some extra transfer tape that I had left over, so that's why I am using such a big piece of transfer tape for this small lettering. And I'm going to add my Boss on here. And I am using vinyl from formerly known 651 vinyl. They're now called 143 vinyl. It's the metallic pink and the metallic purple. I really do like these metallic colors, especially whenever you are working with metallic or color changing glitter. So I have my Boss on there, and now I'm going to add my Lady. I'm just going to put it just as at a slant just to make it kind of cute. My last step for the tumbler is going to be applying the epoxy to the tumbler. I am probably going to be using about 30 to 35 milliliters of epoxy on this tumbler for this 20-ounce tumbler because the glitter at the bottom, the chunky glitter, so I want a nice sealed in tumbler. I don't want to have to add like 15 milliliters of epoxy or 20 and then have to add more. So if you want to do it that way, go ahead. If you do have a lot of bumpiness on the bottom, add your epoxy, add about 20 milliliters of epoxy if you know it's going to be bumpy, so add a little bit of epoxy and then let that cure, sand it down some more and add another 10 to 15 milliliters of epoxy. So you don't want to add 30 to 35 milliliters of epoxy if you know you're going to have to sand it. It's going to be very bulky and then you're going to sand it and then add another 10 to 15. You're going to have way too much epoxy on here. So this is the final product. I'm going to move on to epoxying so I can show y'all this nice shiny decals popping with the glitter.
My tumbler is now epoxied and my tumbler is basically finished. So I'm going to allow this to air dry or air cure. After that, I'm then going to clean up the inside of my tumbler. I will have a video in my description below on how to clean the inside of your tumblers. After I clean the inside, I am ready to go to either gift this tumbler or sell it. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please be sure to like this video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more tumbler and craft videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.